Coolock is a poor neighborhood in Dublin, but that doesn't mean it's not lovely. And I'm standing in a mall just across the street from a residential area. You can see there's a Burger King over there, an Odeon movie theater, and a Leisureplex. I poked my nose in there. It's Saturday morning, and there's families in there. There's a bowling alley, there's an arcade, there's a coffee shop. It's actually a great little hangout. And this whole area is made for families and for kids. And I've been here 3 or 4 times now, and there's lots of teenagers hanging around. It's where the community kids hang out. But look over there. Right across the street, you see a few things. First of all, you can see the 3 colors of the Irish flag. Not only do you see a few Irish flags at half-mast on the light standards, but you can see some enormous concrete blockades. They've been painted green, white, and orange. And behind them is an abandoned paint factory, the Crown Paint Factory. And that's the site of where the Irish government wants to put hundreds of military-age male migrants right smack dab in the middle of this family-friendly, child-friendly plaza. It's an incredible contradiction, a family plaza made for kids, and 500 foreign men, many of whom don't speak English, many of whom don't have papers. In fact, some of them shred their papers when they arrive here. And so it's been the scene of a great number of protests over the past month. In fact, we came here in part because we saw footage of a fire. And I thought, oh my God, they've finally done it. They're going to torch the Crown Paints factory that is the proposed urban refugee camp. We sent our drone over today, and it looks like the fire was just on some debris, not the main building itself. Why would people torch a would-be refugee camp? I don't support violence of any sort, of course, but I think it's an expression of the frustration of the community in Coolock, who really has no other way to speak out. You'd think that putting a 500-person urban refugee camp in the middle of this area of town, especially it's economically challenged. I've spoken to the people of Coolock. They have challenges already, getting a doctor, getting services, social services. Putting 500 needy foreign men smack dab in the middle of that is only going to make things worse for the neighborhood. No consultations. If you were going to build a high apartment building here, if you were going to build an office building here or a shopping center here, there would be hearings. There would be zoning discussions. There would be parking questions. There would be traffic questions. There would be environmental questions. And the thing would take years to get through all the red tape. But this strange approach that Ireland has chosen to put what the locals call plantations of hundreds or sometimes even thousands of foreign men right in the middle of residential neighborhoods is so stunning to me and so frustrating because there is no democratic feedback mechanism. All of the parties in the Irish Parliament support this, bizarrely. Even though polls say that immigration is the #1 worry in Ireland, the numbers are staggering. I mentioned in my video last night before we left from Toronto that the Irish government is boasting that in 2024 alone, they have handed out 775,000 new passports. There's only 5 million people in Ireland. How do you do that? Now, a number of those are Indigenous Irish people just getting their passport for the first time, I suppose. But, you know, there's this saying, don't get into the conspiracy theory of replacing the population, even though the United Nations published a document called Replacement Migration. But you can't help but think of that when, for example, the little village of Dundrum, Ireland, population 200, has 280 migrants put in it. Immediately, the Indigenous Irish are a minority in their own village. And 500 migrants for this proposed plantation here won't make Dubliners a minority, but in this part of town, it certainly will. And I keep thinking, why? Why is this happening? What's the motivation for this? Why are they trying to de-Irish Ireland? Shouldn't the Irish have a place? The Greeks have Greece, the Italians have Italy. Why shouldn't the Irish have Ireland? It's not like Ireland has any connection to the places where these migrants come from. Ireland was never an empire, didn't colonize anyone. In fact, it's fought for its own sovereignty itself to expel people it's regarded as overlords in the past. They're the Irish Revolution just over a century ago. What is motivating this country's political class to bring in 1 million foreigners, which has happened over the last few years? I find it puzzling, and I'm going to try and find out some answers to these questions in today's visit. We're here at Coolock. We've been several times. We've been here before. Often there's men outside the colorful blocks there having a bit of a protest and a vigil, but I think we're here a little bit too early to see them today. We're going to try and go to other places too. The same problems we have in Canada. Where do you put these people? What do they do for a living? Are very evident here in Ireland. We're going to go to the canal area where I suspect we'll see a lot of these migrants just literally sleeping in tents. I wanted to come here because I wanted to see what the fire was, and it looks like it was just a fire of debris. But this is a central battleground in Dublin. The question is, whose Dublin is this? Whose Coolock, that's the neighborhood, is this? Does it belong to the Irish people? Does it belong to the mums and the kids in the Leisureplex? Or does it belong to the 500 strangers, many of whom came here under false premises? Who owns Coolock? That's one of the questions we're trying to find out. But look over there, a modest house, a small house in a fairly low-income residential community. It's houses all the way down. Obviously, the paint factory didn't disturb anyone. It was a place where workers came to make paint, and it's been empty for some years now. But imagine you live there, and you're told, not asked, you're told that 500 military-aged migrant men are going to be your neighbors. And if you don't like it, you're a racist. And if you ask questions, shut up, they explained. I'm across the street now. These huge concrete barricades have been brought here because this is where there was a protest encampment for months. And they would walk right into the Crown Paints facility. These were put to stop people from going over. You can still see in between the concrete blocks, you can see some construction equipment, and it's sort of a messy area. When we were here once before, we saw one of those pieces of heavy equipment being torched. You can see the graffiti, "Get them out, free Coolock." Coolock says no. I'm told by the security guard that there is sort of a permanent protest here. We're just here a little bit early in the day. As you know, we're just here for the day, so I wanted to make this our first stop. You can see some remnants of the camp, some chairs. At times, there's up to hundreds of people here. And in fact, one day, there were literally thousands marching down the street. We were here earlier, several months ago, and the police, or the Gardaí as they're called, the Gardaí, they came with their SWAT equipment with batons and tear gas, and they had a bit of a melee. Some of the local lads were throwing bottles at cops. Police responded with batons. It was actually quite brutal. There's going to be an election in Ireland, pundits say, in the next couple of months. I think immigration will be an unspoken issue. The reason I say unspoken is that all the dominant parties support mass immigration. And that's such a puzzle to me because, I mean, I'm fairly new to the world of Ireland, so I have a lot to learn. But one of the things that I always thought is the Sinn Féin party was sort of the Irish nationalists. They were the party that was sort of the peaceful political wing of the IRA. I don't know my Irish history, but that I know. So it's so bizarre to me that the Irish nationalists who helped give the boot to the British are so open doors when it's migrants from other countries. I don't understand how you can have centuries of resistance to foreign domination when it's a Brit, but roll over and roll out the red carpet when it's people from Pakistan or Syria or wherever else the migrants come from. I find that astonishing. Ireland is changing before our eyes. It's very confusing to me, but I think some of the ways the government is going about it here are things we should be aware of back home. and some of the ways the protest is happening here, we should be aware of back home. I wonder if any political party in this upcoming Irish election will make immigration an issue, or if they'll all pretend it's just fine. We'll keep you posted as we go our way around Ireland today. To follow all of our reports and to chip into our crowd-funded journalism, please go to migrantreports.com.